The Writer's Dossier podcast is a proud member of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network.
My name is David Tromblay, and this is my Writer's Dossier.
No writers were harmed in the production of this podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Writer's Dossier. And today, man, I have something really special. David Tromblay is on the show. David, thanks for joining me, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. I tell you what, I got your new book, COYDOG. You sent it to me, and I have just got to get right into something here. People, listen to this. I'm a sucker for first lines of the book, and dude, you nailed it. I'm just going to read it right here. The Black Lizard Bridge that leads folks into Anadarko County feels like it ought not be crossed unless your affairs are in order. Oh my God, I am no Ray Porter when it comes to reading that kind of stuff, but dude, that first line. All right, I asked some people this. How long did you spend on that, dude?
It was immediate because that was an idea that I tried to throw in the TV show probably 2 days earlier, because we had already wrapped up for the Lowdown, but 7 of the writers stayed on, and they were producers, and one of them sent me a text. He's like, "Hey, we need a name for a bridge," and that was one on the top of my head, and they rejected it. It's like, no, it's got to be like this and this, and I came up with a historical name, but so it was sitting there, and I was like, I'm going to use it because this is a reissue or basically bringing 2 novellas into a novel. So we did do a complete edit all the way through, but she asked for a new intro and a new ending.
Well, let's tie this together for everybody. Folks who don't know David Tromblay, let's just get it out of the way. This is not Paul Tremblay. We're going to get into that. I don't know what the deal is with that guy, but David Tromblay, that guy, the nonfiction book, As You Were, a starred Kirkus review and a 2021 best nonfiction book. So you did that, and then you followed up with COYDOG with the same publisher, and COYDOG is unbelievable. Just right there in that first sentence just grabs you. I'm like, he should not be crossed unless your affairs are in order. Holy shit, man, that just nails it. So then now on top of everything else, you've done the Lowdown. You're one of the writers on the Lowdown with Lou Burney, and the Lowdown is a TV show on FX with Ethan Hawke and Keith David. Just a fantastic cast, gritty. People are just going nuts about it. So tell everybody a little bit of the connection there with COYDOG, Lowdown, maybe what the timeline was a little bit, and what it was like sitting in the writer's room.
The COYDOG essentially served as my resume, ultimately. There was some attention from Hollywood, and there was 2 producers. They didn't have a director, and I said, "Do you have a director in mind?" And I said, "Yes," because I didn't want Moses Kincaid to be Cale Smith when it came time for the TV show, as Hollywood likes to do.
Yeah. Moses Kincaid is the protagonist in COYDOG. Yes.
Native American bounty hunter, which is a flip-flop of the Lone Ranger and Tonto trope. I reached out to Sterling, who I had known through IAIA, and he also interviewed me for As You Were for Magic City Books. So I wanted him to read it. He read it, and he sat on it for a while, and he got busy. And what he got busy with was Reservation Dogs, which is just an amazing TV show. From that, he was working on something new, but I did not know what it was. We got a little more momentum with the COYDOG TV show, and one of the producers dropped off, as they do. And I called him out of the blue and said, "Can I get you to direct this? This person's gone. Can I get you on board now?" And he actually called me back, and he was sitting there with Ethan Hawke in the middle of filming the pilot. And he said, "Can I get you to help me fix my TV show?" And I said, "Absolutely." That was May. And I flash forward to September. We had basically writers boot camp where we got to learn about everything that was going to be the underpinnings of the show, including the real life muse, who was a friend of Sterling Harker, who was this man. It's widely known now. We kept it as a secret, as it was an homage to him he has passed, but Leroy Chapman is the man that exposed how involved the Klan was with the movers and shakers of Tulsa, and then to include the cover-up of mass graves for the Tulsa race massacre in 1921. He uncovered a lot of that, and as you would expect, people came after him.
All right. So you're in Oklahoma. You're in rural eastern Oklahoma. And I mean, COYDOG, Tulsa King. What's going on down there in Oklahoma? Because the cover of your book has an incredible blurb from Sean Cosby, S.A. Cosby. And so there's this whole Southern noir thing. And I'm going to say something here in a minute that some people might find surprising, and you might too. When Sean Cosby talked about Holy City by Henry Wise, and I got a hold of Holy City, I thought, holy crap, this is going to be one of the dossier's books of the year for sure. And it was, and it ended up winning a bunch of stuff. And all that Southern noir stuff is one thing, but then you've got this Oklahoma, Arkansas area. So you've got Eli Craner right over in Arkansas, and then you got you in Oklahoma, right in a whole different geography to this Southern-ish noir business. So when did you move to Oklahoma? How did you get up there? And how did that play into the type of writing that you ended up with?
After I finished my MFA, I moved to Arkansas for a teaching job that fell through because the person did not want to retire. So I ended up applying for PhDs. I got long listed for Ole Miss, and was a finalist for OSU. The stipend, this is how fickle decisions are made. The stipend, the yearly teaching stipend, was $11,000. The cheapest rent I could find for a place in Oxford, Mississippi that took a dog was $1,200 a month. And I found a 2-bedroom home in Stillwater, Oklahoma for $605. So that was how I ended up in Oklahoma with that PhD program. That fall, we had the smallest amount or fewest amount incoming freshmen ever, and there was no teachership for me. So they asked me to just take my normal classes and then apply for a teachership in the fall. And they said, oh yeah, by the way, your classes are going to be $9,200 a semester for the next 2 semesters because you have no tuition remission. So I said, no. And I just kind of hung up for a year. That was the plan, and I was going to reapply and go ahead. March of 2020, we had the lockdown, COVID hit. I lost my daughter the first day of the lockdown. It was something that was just too traumatic for her to accept being locked down. So I was sitting and I already had Sanger Road written, which was the first half of the book. Written but not published. Right. And so I was basically sitting there in a 2-bedroom house with an empty bedroom that would never be filled again because my daughter was gone. So literally haunted by that. So I left. I left town. I went to Tulsa. I got hired to teach for Teach for America, which is a different avenue of getting teachers into the classroom. And it was during the lockdown. They didn't know what the fall was going to look like. They couldn't place me as an English teacher. About 2 weeks before the teachers boot camp started, they asked me if I would be willing to be certified in elementary education. And I said, 16 years in the military, 4.5 years in active combat, spent 6 years learning how to teach writing at the graduate level. Please don't lock me in a room with 38-year-olds. please don't do that.
Yeah, we can go a lot of places with that, man. I get it.
No. I mean, kindergarten cop. I mean, a lot of things comes to mind.
Yes,
a lot of things comes to mind. But so I opted out of that, and money came in from me losing my daughter. And after about 2 months, it really soured my taste in my mouth to give that money to a landlord. So I looked for a house, and I was real simple. I just looked for the light pollution and the crime maps. And I found a place next to a lake about 45 minutes from downtown Tulsa. Got a quarter of a city block. The house is listed as a cottage, but I have a half acre, and the half acre is turned into essentially a half-acre garden. 40 fruit trees with 17 different kinds of fruits, 5 individual gardens feeding the neighborhood. I have 120-foot pollinator garden, which is 6 foot beyond, 6 foot tall and 120 feet long. And I have another one on my east fence, which is 48 feet. 3 beehives inside of that, birds and the whole thing. Someone actually flagged me down and asked how to get into the garden because they couldn't find the main entrance. So that's what I've been working on.
Well, what about your dogs? And the goats, do they like run the place outside?
Well, absolutely. It started as utilitarian. The place was run over with, depending where you're from, either poison sumac or Virginia creeper, poison ivy, poison oak was everywhere. And I actually got kicked out of the army of it because I had a hybrid of it when I was in one station unit trainer for infantry schools. So after my second ER visit down in Muskogee, they said, you need to do something preventative. And they meant gloves, but I thought goats. So I put up a fence and I got goats, and the goats clean the place out.
Oh, they'll do that in 3 days. I get it.
Oh, easy.
We got poison ivy out here.
So now it's curated for them because I have a fence, and you can listen to it, and there's 2 different lenses. There is a fence to keep the goats away from the flowers and the fruit trees in one of the gardens. But there's also a fence 12 feet inside of the fence. It's a staggered perimeter with layered security, being the 4 livestock garden dogs. So you can tell, there is a physical security expert that lives here.
I was going to say, anyone who puts perimeter and security in the same sentence, yeah, you were in the military.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
And when the cops know all about it. But after having the goats for about 6 months, a baby goat showed up. And they don't know any better than to shut up at night. And a scream sounds like an easy meal. I remember it was 1:20 a.m. February. It's freezing out. And Hank, my little Hank, down where the name comes from, is my Basset Hound healer dog, starts going off, and I run outside, and right outside the barn is a family of bobcats.
Oh,
holy
cow!
Yeah, I was like, oh shit! I didn't know what to do. I have throwing axes on my property because I practice.
I love the air quotes. I practice. Folks who are watching on YouTube, you know what I'm talking about.
I have throwing axes all over the property, and they've gotten rid of a hunting dog that ate chickens. I couldn't figure out what to do, and that's not a feasible thing to be hunting stray dogs and bobcats and being out in the night barnyard Batman. But I did some research, and I found out that there were dogs that were bred just to do this. And I did some research, and I got up on Craigslist, of course, and that it still exists, especially when you're in rural eastern Oklahoma. That's kind of where that's better than Marketplace. And I found a farm about an hour north of me, and they had these dogs. They were half Kangal and half Alibi. Kangal is the national dog of Turkey. Is a 6,000-year-old breed, evolved landrace breed. It evolved as the people moved from northern China, Mongolia, over to what's now Turkey. These dogs moved along the way. They ended up, fighting bears and lions. It sounds like something out of the Wizard of Oz, but they have a 750-pound beginning bite strength. It is 3 times that of a pit bull.
Yes.
The strongest bite, but they're basically a lion.
Yes.
So I have the brothers, and when I picked them, I picked the one that looked most like dad and the one that looked most like mom. Okay. So the Kangal one, he looks more like a mastiff because the Central Asian Shepherds, the Alibis, have so much more. Mama was big boned, so they're that much bigger. I have 2 females, also a full-bred Kangal. I drove all the way 3 hours to get her, make sure that there was no bloodline crossing. And then after I got on the show, I had a little extra money, so I went and got a Caucasian Ovcharka, which is the Russian bear dog or the Russian prison dog. And if you know anyone that's done any time in intelligence circles, they know that those are the prisons that the Russians used to keep the prisoners docile. Docile. Those dogs were actually a Cold War experience. It sounds really nefarious, but I think it was more like a farm boy thing. What the Russian military wanted a dog. So they had people take the 3 best livestock guardian dogs they had, and they bred them, and they came up with the Caucasian Charger, which is just the Caucasian Shepherd. And you cannot shut off this thing's aggressiveness or protectiveness, to the point where I went to my Bonnie is only 13 months old. But I took her to the vet, and there was a guy nervously sitting there with this cat, and she left me and sat in front of him and put her back to him and said, "What is she doing?" It's like, "She's protecting you, dude."
Yep.
Like, these dogs, you can't shut them off. So I tell people, and even the policeman, I was like, if you come to my house, my dogs don't like you, I can't help you.
That's how it is. So there you go, folks. There aren't going to be any book signings for COYDOG at David Tromblay's house anytime soon, but you are making the rounds. You're getting out there. You're doing some really cool things. I want to talk about COYDOG real quick, because this book, I'm telling you, folks, unbelievable. The Moses Kincaid bounty hunting. You've done a lot of things in your life. You got a lot of life experiences, both personally and professionally, that went into this book. Tell me about the bounty hunting. What kind of research did you do?
The original seed actually came from the military. As I was getting out processed, Drill Sergeant Fernandez, who was an as you were, he was like 6'7" with his hat. I was watching the phones one day, and he came by and he threw this magazine at me. He said, "I think you'd be pretty good at this." And it was an expose on modern day bounty hunting. That was November of '96. So that's when the seed was planted. Flash forward to when I was getting out of the military and I was looking for work to do. I was trying to go home, as one does. And the only thing I could find was working for bail bondsman. As I sent him my resume. Basically, we had the same conversation that he and Arlo did, but over the phone. And he said, "Absolutely, I'd love to have you." At that point, I was still 235 pounds, 12% body fat, and was working out non-stop, which came to a quick halt after I got out, because I got into obstacle course racing and CrossFit, just for a little bit of community. So yeah, I just shrunk way down. But at that same time, as I was getting out, I was final contestant for the Uniform Division Secret Service. But luckily, my ex-wife totally screwed up my credit while I was on my last deployment, and I was excused from the pool.
Excused. Thank you very much for applying. We appreciate your service. Good luck in your future endeavors.
After 2 years, I actually made it through the final. You go through a polygraph, which is 100 questions, 3 times over, so on and so forth. And he told me that was it like 3 out of 10,000 make it through. I fucking made it through, and I had the physical next. And then there's a final credit check, and like my credit, it went from like 756 to 512 in one deployment. Well, I was just coming back from deployment. Sorry, dude.
Now the polygraph is actually 4 questions asked 300 times differently each.
I had so much fun with them because I'm over analytical,
Yes.
I'm that little boy that was left in his crib for 4 years, did not speak until I was 4 years old. But could speak, no problem. So when he asked questions, there were questions like, "Have you ever had sexual thoughts about a minor?" I was like, "Yep." When I was 15, anything that was a female in my classroom, in my view, he's like, "Well, that's not what this means." When you're hooked up to, I was like, when I hooked up the machine, I'm gonna have to deceive you, and my body's gonna tell you, and you're looking for deceit. So yeah, we went through that, and I picked apart a lot. It's quite.
Then that's where I used to do polygraphs. So that's where all the gold is mined in the pre-interview, when you're trying to wash that out of your brain of what's right and what's wrong. So,
and it was just, I was like, there's just no way. And I think he got to where he's like, "Oh, this one's nerves."
A lot of fun. COYDOG, folks, it's available now. You've got to grab this thing. It's got a ton of amazing reviews, and even Paul Tremblay reviewed it.
Yes. Well, he has a 2-part series. Grab the one right here.
Because you get pissed off when, well, I don't know if you get pissed off when I put words in your mouth, but what is the deal when people say they're disappointed that you're not Paul
disappointed?
Tremblay?
I found it. Paul Tremblay, which is actually what my name should be, but it got messed up 3 generations ago. He had a stalker that worked at the Barnes and Noble on 40th in Tulsa. I found that out for him.
Funny.
Yes, Paul Tremblay, he's a horror writer, also a math teacher full time. But he has these two detective novels. And what's weird about the detective novels is the detective, no, it's weird about him. Like, what, why is it different? Why is it special? This is a narcoleptic detective.
The evidence keeps disappearing.
And I was like, you know what? As I went through and I was looking for people to read and champion COYDOG, I was trying to look for people that would actually be legitimate fans. And I was a legitimate fan of his. And I was like, holy shit. Moses has a little bit of narcolepsy. He falls asleep all the time. All the time.
Oh, well, Steph Post, Scott Phillips, Lou Burney, Chris Offutt, everyone is, and of course, Sean Cosby, everyone's crazy about the Anadarko County novel COYDOG. Folks, it's out now. It's on everywhere you get your books. You've got to pick this thing up. It is, you're writing at a level that is rarely achieved. Last question about that along those lines. I have a ton of things I want to ask you, but the MFA, you already came to the table with a rucksack full of thoughts and ideas and life trauma and curiosity about the future. Everything is already right there. And you put a lot of this stuff down in short stories that you built out to in a novel. Something that you like to say is stories entertain and they plant seeds. So tell everybody a little bit about how you took all of that and how the MFA helped, or was it just an expensive, hey, look at me, I have this paper now?
Oh, sir, I paid for my MFA with my GI.
I was gonna ask about the GI Bill, so that's good.
I kept that blue collar veneer on me while I was there. I always let you know.
So what you did to earn the GI Bill gave you some life experiences and some ideas from your drill sergeant and the whole bounty hunter thing. But
traded my youth, my sanity for my college.
Oh yes we did. Yes we did. Did that help you write the story though? Because it was in you. You just had to get it out.
I had 90% of it done, and when I finally sat down with Stephen Graham Jones, he said he applauded the time travel that I do in my writing. He said, and he made a point of, he's like, normally I tell my students not to do this because I can't teach them how to do it, but I see what you're doing and I want to see you develop this so I can learn. And that right there, I knew we had a symbiosis and I could work with him. And then we just, we took off. And I was writing 2 books simultaneously. I wrote As You Were, and then just because I wanted to, because normally when you're writing a memoir and you see a lot of quotation marks, you're thinking bullshit, unless it's recent and recorded. So I wrote another book called The Essentials, which was essentially all pure dialogue, and just at the end to be facetious, and because I still had a little MFA stink on me, I didn't use any quotation marks. Just to show how smart and how cool and smart. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Had to do it. That book's being reissued as happens when you receive a little bit of notoriety. So that book's coming out again, new cover. They re-edited it, so on and so forth.
Fantastic, man. You have a bright future ahead of you in this industry. Keep doing what you're doing. How do people get a hold of you? I know you're big on Instagram. What's the best way to follow with what David Tromblay is up to? Tromblay, sorry.
I either or. I used to get that. And my Instagram and I'm on Facebook. I'm just there passively. I post stuff. I really don't try to have much of a following. I have my Linktree on there. I will keep that up as a blog or whatnot. It just makes more sense and it's so much more efficient.
No, I think people need to check out that Linktree because there's some really cool things out there, and I've got to encourage everyone to go to that Linktree. You can grab it from Instagram and look at the Bull Magazine interview. That was fantastic.
You need to add the audiobook. Please check out the audiobook. Ian Wilde did an amazing job.
Yes.
I did goof on him a little bit. He is Canadian, but I chose him because he is Canadian, and his Canadian isms sound a lot like Wisconsin isms.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we need to borrow that, eh?
Hey, well, we just had Steve Ursani on and The Broken Detective.
Oh, yes. I did catch that one. I was watching that a couple mornings.
Yes. Oh man, that was
Yeah,
fantastic.
that voice was, that's what I love. That's kind of what we, the COYDOG was compared to, not by me, but by the producers that were working on it, as Old Country for Old Men meets Fargo.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's kind of my brand, I believe, even if you can read As You Were under that same lens. And it's because what you see in Fargo and what I grew up seeing is goofy people that were like, oh, yeah, they're in the Northland, murdering people and beating people to death. And that right there is jarring. And I think that is actually genuine.
Absolutely. Shout out to Joel Nadecki there for the Broken Detective from the Canada side of things. And dude, really, seriously, keep doing what you're doing, folks. I'm telling you, this book right here, it's a breakout. And you've got to get into COYDOG by our friend David Tromblay. So, dude, thanks for everything you've done. Thanks for what you're doing. Hang in there. Keep knocking it out and get those goats and dogs outside, get them working, and we will see you soon. So, man, thanks for joining the Writer's Dossier podcast. I'm really excited about what you're up to, and I can't wait to see what you do next. All right, thanks. Bye, everybody.
The Dossier Podcast is a production of The Idea Academy.